not be deceived by fortune. Today, I'm Fortitude through Stoicism, and this is my 365-day journey of implementing the ancient philosophy of Stoicism into the life of this modern masculine man. We are going to use Seneca as the example, but then I'm also going to give my own personal reference. The quote by Seneca: "No one is crushed by fortune unless they are first deceived by her. Those who aren't pompous in good times don't have their bubbles burst with change. Against either circumstance, the stable person keeps their rational soul invincible. For it is precisely in the good times they prove their strength against adversity." So Seneca was exiled from Rome in 41 AD. No one really knows why, but rumor has it he had an affair with the sister of the emperor. So he was exiled to Corsica. Now, one of the letters that remains, his first and main priority once he was exiled after some time was to reassure and comfort his mother of his safety and well-being. Now, there's a little bit of guilt and shame in the letters, and there is rumor that he also later did request to have the exile lifted. Now, the lesson here is that Seneca was an entertainer. It's notable that he was one of the wealthiest men in Rome. He had very close ties to the emperor. But he also, if you will, gave into the temptations of flesh, right? He, against, if you look at this as critical thinking, justice, doing the right thing, sleeping with the sister of the emperor is probably not a good move. This is where he failed. This is where he gave into his temptations. Now, the Stoicism that he'd been studying his whole life had prepared him for the exile. Whether he really took it well enough is up to debate. He did request and petition to return to Rome, and he later did. That exile gave him the strength to face the wrath of the next emperor, which we all know made him commit suicide. My own personal story, I look back when I was a young man, and I was very, very, very successful in my late 20s. Made a lot of money, spent a lot of money. And then when the tide changed in the financial crisis, I got caught my pants down, over-leveraged. Made some bad decisions. Now I would consider this good times again. I have pretty much everything going for me that I'd want to go for me. But with that, I live more frugally now than I ever have. I wore a hole in my boots and had them resold instead of buying a new pair of boots. I wore my shoes down till there was holes in them too. Frugality for me is now freedom, because frugality allows me to maintain my resources to overcome the tide of the shifting sea. There are always ebbs and flows in business cycles. There are always ebbs and flows in businesses. There are always ebbs and flows in personal finance. Do not be deceived that when you're on the top of that wave, that it'll continue going. This happened to the entire real estate industry during COVID. Mortgage professionals, when they did their planning for the next year, they were saying they're going to do ridiculous numbers. And as we all know, all of a sudden it just turned off like that. As soon as rates up, turned off just like that. The phone stopped, all the business stopped. Mortgage companies were putting processors and operations staff out of business. Realtors were complaining. That's what happens because you get used to the good times. So what Stoicism teaches us is we prepare for the bad times. If you are consistently training and prepared for war, war will never be a surprise for you. Remember, it's better be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. If you are preparing and only know how to deal with your business and your life when it's easy, the first sign of adversity is going to knock you down. May take the fight out of you. I mean, my particular role right now as a PM, going in all these different businesses in the consulting space, many of them got fat and happy during COVID. A lot of free money, right? The EID loans, the PPP loans, and a lot of them were doing more business because people were sitting at home figuring out ways to spend their money. So what happens? They get used to the good times so that when hard times come, they get crushed. And you see on social media all the time. You see it goes around in many different forms, but it says, hard times create strong men. Strong men create easy times. Easy times create weak men, right? We are in a time where it's very easy, but it shifts. As we're seeing now, the fat and happy, the COVID, low interest rates, very easy. Deceived by fortune. So Stoicism teaches us in the good times is when you prove your strength. What does strength look like in the good times? It looks like discipline from overspending. It looks like the discipline to save for the rainy day, right? It is very easy to emotionally get caught up in that. That's where the strength, that's where the fortitude, that's where the resilience comes in. For me, the lesson was learned. Foreclosures, short sales, embarrassment. I made promises to my family that I couldn't fulfill then. And I don't look at it as a loss. It's a lesson. I got knocked down. I learned. Lost $1.8 million in 18 months. And my mentor said to me, he goes, what do you mean lost? I don't see you losing anything. He said, you're a very young man. He goes, if you were 65 years old and this happened, it's the end of the road. How are you going to rebuild? He goes, you just invested $1.8 million into the best education you will ever get. He was right. He was 1,000% right. I used to be very liberal with my spending, very loose with my budgeting. Now I budget everything. I budget everything. My team reviews my budget. Listen, I just had to do the one thing that I didn't want to do. I'm heading into separation season. Separation season for me is I need to find more to cut out of my budget. The one thing that I can cut out of my budget is my Asian massages. It's my favorite thing to do. I get 2 a week. But if you figure that out at 125 a pop or so, that's 250 a week. That's 1,000 a month. That's 12,000 a year. Round it up, whatever. That's a lot of money. Not for me, but it's a lot of money. So I'm going to cut that out of my life right now during separation season, reinvest it in my business. How do I make myself better? Yes, I understand that's recovery. Yes, I understand that's for my own personal, mental, physical wellness. I get all that. This is where the strength and discipline comes in. Yes, that is very good for me. I'll meditate. I'll have one of my ladies do my massages. I will shift and delegate that responsibility to someone else. They won't do it as good. That's why I go to my Asian ladies. But that's where the discipline comes in. That's where the strength comes in. I learned the lesson to never be fooled by the good times. If you run your budget like it's always the bad times, squirreling away and reinvesting those assets, building the fortress, building the empire. I always look at it from a military standpoint. I always look at my money as soldiers, right? And, if it's income generating, then, it's an entire unit, right? But if I go out to an expensive dinner, I'm murdering a bunch of my soldiers. They cannot be put back into the fight. They cannot gather more territory, more soldiers. They can't, they're done, they're effective. I've made myself weaker by embellishing, or by being deceived by my fortune. So no, the lesson today is the strength is not being frugal when times are tough, but being disciplined when times are good. That's the challenge. And on that, we're out of here.